The corruption trial of Jacob Zuma will not go ahead just yet after Judge Pietermaritzburg postponed the matter today in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. Now, the country must now wait on the Supreme Court of Appeals, President Mandisa Maya, to reconsider the SCA's dismissal of Zuma's so-called special plea to force the removal of prosecutor Billy Downer. The former president's health is also under question once again after he was reportedly hospitalized earlier today. Thulasizwe Simelane is standing by in Pietermaritzburg with details. Thulasizwe, thanks very much indeed for talking to us this late. You bumped into Zuma's lawyer, didn't you, Dalimpofu, earlier? What did he tell you?
Yeah, absolutely, Devin. It was a chance encounter with Advocate Dalimpofu, having watched him earlier on in the day in court presenting those arguments why the case needed to be postponed pending the outcome of their approach to the President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, Justice Mandisa Maya. And I think the best word I can think of to describe the mood in the Jacob Zuma legal camp is buoyant. It's been a good day for them in court, and they have not had many of those in recent years. I mean, their track record of their losses in various courts over various matters was even noted by Judge Pietermaritzburg himself in summing up the reasons for his decision to allow this postponement. It's not a major victory, but it is for them in that it was a technicality that came out. They had to almost fashion it immediately after the Supreme Court of Appeal decided that it was not going to hear former President Jacob Zuma's appeal against Judge Pietermaritzburg's decision to not allow his special plea to have Billy Downer removed. So immediately they had to think on their feet and say, how do we then allow that process through which we've approached Justice Mandisa Maya to relook at this decision of the Supreme Court of Appeal to not hear him and see if there are exceptional circumstances that warrant that court should reconsider that. So that is a roundabout way of me saying that you can tell that despite the fact that former President Jacob Zuma, we are told, is in hospital and that there's been a medical emergency and he's undergoing a series of tests, and Mzwanele Manye, I think, says at some point he started feeling unwell yesterday, but at some point today the situation seems to have deteriorated with the result that he was taken to hospital. Putting aside all of that, it's been a good day in the Jacob Zuma camp, at least legally. Also, of course, coming ahead of his birthday, which is tomorrow, a birthday where he turns 80 years old. He was 63 when he was first charged in 2005. Take a listen to what Advocate Dalimpofu told me what today means ahead of the former president's birthday.
I'm very happy, but of course, as you know, I cannot comment on the merits of the case. I just think I want to take this opportunity, since I bumped into you, to wish former President Zuma a happy birthday for tomorrow. 80, reaching a milestone like 80 is not something that some of us even aspire to get, and therefore we hope that his health improves and he must enjoy tomorrow. Hopefully some of what happened today will contribute to him having a good day with his family.
So tell us, you can't talk about this trial wherever you are without pointing to what is perceived to be delays, right? And I believe the judge also has views on what he thinks these delays are about.
He absolutely did, and he didn't really go into further detail in finding one way or another, but there was a key paragraph in him giving an exposition of his reasoning around why he agrees that the trial must be put on pause while awaiting the decision of Justice Mandisa Maya. I thought that was particularly important, and I don't know if it's been picked up in that the narrative in some quarters is that former President Jacob Zuma is stalling and basically all of these processes are being done mala fide is certainly the feeling of the National Prosecuting Authority through Advocate Billy Downer, presented in court today, where they're saying that, you know, these are meritless application after application that he keeps bringing to basically cause undue delays to this process. But the judge, Piet Koen, says, and I thought this was significant, that there's nothing that's been presented to him, on the papers at least, that can lead him to coming to that finding. He says, you know, a finding of mala fide needs more than what has been put on the papers for him to find that. And that's an important point, Devon, because had he come to the conclusion that former President Zuma is doing all of this for mala fide purposes and untoward purposes and for undue delay to the processes, he would have had to stamp his authority in terms of a section of the Criminal Procedure Act and say, actually, I'm not going to allow these undue delays. We are going to go ahead with this process. So he says nothing has been put before him that suggests that's the case. Take a listen to how he summed up how he sees all of this, as inconvenient as it can be, as a process that is allowable at law in terms of the strict letter of the law. The extent to which it's desirable that, you know, a litigant or an accused can coil up another party in litigation this long, Judge Piet Koen says is a different debate which may be best suited to be handled by the Law Reform Commission. But for the purposes of this case, take a listen to what he thinks is at play here in as far as former President Zuma asserting his rights.
And might I just also say up front that my learned friend has conceded a concession if mala fides were to exist. In other words, were this court to be of the opinion, and this is the state submission, that indeed this application which currently is before this court is mala fides in the sense that it is part of the Stalingrad defense and is meritless and is but one of those defenses which is raised continually without any prospects of success, knowing by any proper reading of the law, and is nevertheless proceeded with. So it's done in bad faith. It's done to delay in that sense, and we make this submission very seriously at this stage.
To me, that this court has much of a discretion, if it has one at all, to deny those appeal rights statutorily ordained, unless perhaps in the clearest of cases where there is an abuse of rights. The appeal process should be allowed to run its course. Mr. Zuma has challenged many decisions adverse to him in the past, usually invoking the entire appeal process to the highest courts in this land, and in many instances has been unsuccessful, which resulted in inevitable and unfortunate delays. He is also on record through previous counsel representing him that he will continue to exercise all rights available to him. But the exercise of those rights, as much as they may be viewed with suspicion and distrust from certain quarters as resulting only in delays, which only favor him, do not per se amount to an abuse of those rights. A finding of mala fides would require more and clear proof by the state, which I cannot make on the allegations in the present papers alone.
All right, so tell us, I mean, of course, we played the Billy Downer remarks before Judge Piet Koen, but we finally got to it, and I see what you're saying. He did put it down quite succinctly on what he feels there. But perhaps let's go to what the state's been saying. We wouldn't play the clip from Billy Downer, but just give us a sense of what the state said throughout this.
Oh, well, for the state, this is simply a case of former President Jacob Zuma basically playing out his Stalingrad defense. In fact, those were the exact words used by Advocate Billy Downer. He says this is just another case of more delaying tactics that have included, among the examples that he cited, in fact, on the papers that they filed in preparation for this application for a postponement, they give a certain account of some of the recent delays and applications that have played out in the name of former President Jacob Zuma. So they include the instance where, former President Jacob Zuma had applied for a permanent stay of prosecution, and basically when that was not successful in the High Court before a full bench, there was an indication that he would approach, at some point he was going to approach the Constitutional Court, and that seemed to be getting underway in terms of preparation of papers and filing thereof, but in the end that went nowhere. And Billy Downer making the point that that was one of those instances where basically this was meritless and meant to just delay, which has been a hallmark of this particular Stalingrad strategy of former President Jacob Zuma. Of course, the defense of Mr. Zuma says you are all looking at this with the wrong perspective. If your perspective is 17 years from the time when former President Zuma was first charged, when he was 63 years old, that's the wrong perspective. These are fresh proceedings as far as they are concerned that came into being after Sean Abrams announced in 2018 that Mr. Zuma must face 16 charges, and in fact the actual process started rolling after he started appearing in court subsequent to that announcement by Sean Abrams. In fact, Advocate Dalimpofu says, that has nothing to do with me. If you are thinking we are closer to 20 years, that's got nothing to do with me. We're talking proceedings here which are about 4 years old.
Well, no doubt this could be very interesting to watch. Well, thanks very much indeed. eNCA's Thulasizwe Simelane in Pietermaritzburg.